It's time for The Verdict. The Verdict is a lively discussion of current events and legal issues pertinent to Oklahomans. The Verdict is hosted by Kent Myers and Mick Cornett. It's time for The Verdict.
Good morning and welcome once again to the set of The Verdict. Mick Cornett with Kent Myers. We're here every Sunday morning discussing topical events with interesting guests, and another good show lined up today.
Yes, the legislature is in session and doing a lot of things, grabbing a lot of headlines, and justifiably so. And we are so pleased today to have Representative Fred Morgan, whom we'll introduce in a minute. But it's kind of an interesting thing. 4 years ago, we asked Fred to be on the show, and he couldn't for some reason or another, and we have now got the stars lined up right, and we've been able to lure him on. And he knows more about what's going on out there than almost anyone, and we are going to be able to tell you what's going on with lawsuit reform. He's going to be able to tell you what's going on with lawsuit reform, workers' comp reform, AG limitation bill, and the like. I think it'll be very interesting.
Fred Morgan, our guest on today's edition of The Verdict. We'll be right back.
Folks, you hear it all over the news, and unfortunately, gas is going up. So Big Red Sports and Imports, we're going to do something to help you with that. Right now, you can come in to Big Red Sports and Imports, pick out an 05 Kia Rio, pay only $79.88, get 40 miles to the gallon, and get a 10-year, 100,000-mile warranty. Think about it. $79.88, 40 miles to the gallon, 10-year, 100,000-mile warranty. We don't have one. We have over 100 in stock right now at Oklahoma's car store. Big Red Sports and Imports, I-35, Norman.
Come learn and laugh at this year's Balance Conference, a half-day event planned just for women. Join us Saturday, April 30th at the beautiful Reed Center in Midwest City. Tickets are just $10, which includes lunch. Register by calling 610-3627.
The Journal-Record is pleased to be a sponsor of The Verdict. The Journal-Record, since 1903, the best source of Oklahoma business news and legal information.
Hi, I'm Chef Walter. I'm your heart healthy chef. Join me every Friday on Hello Oklahoma. We've got great recipes, we've got great food, and we've got great friends. Come on.
I am so tired of overpaying for health insurance.
Wow, I pay a lot less, and that covers me and my family.
If you're self-employed or an individual looking for affordable health insurance for yourself and your family, do what I did. Call Mega Life and Health Insurance for a free quote.
I got individual attention from a licensed Mega Health agent who tailored a plan to match my needs and was way more than affordable.
And unlike those questionable discount plans, this is real insurance. I got better coverage at a better rate, and I can choose my own doctor from their extensive network.
Now get this. You can't be singled out for a rate increase or cancellation. So, do what I did.
Call Mega Life and Health Insurance for your free quote. You have absolutely no obligation except the one to yourself, your family, and your business.
Call 800-306-6359 for your free Mega Affordable Health Insurance quote. Call 800-306-6359.
And welcome back to the set of The Verdict. Mick Cornett with Kent Myers. Kent's going to introduce today's guest.
We are very pleased to have the Honorable Fred Morgan, the state representative, a Republican from District 83, with us this morning. As I indicated in the opening segment, we have been anxious to have Fred on for a number of years on The Verdict, and we're just pleased that he can join us. We're going to be talking about what's going on out at the state capitol, and there's a lot going on. Insofar as Fred is concerned personally, he has his Bachelor of Arts degree from St. Louis University and his law degree from Oklahoma City University. He has practiced law for a little over 25 years. He is the chairman of the House Judiciary Committee, a very prestigious post out at the legislature. He was from 98 to 2002 when the Republicans were in the minority. He was the minority floor leader. He's married with 2 children, And we're really pleased to have you, Fred. Thanks for you joining us on your first, but we hope not your last visit to the verdict.
Well, thank you, Ken. Thank you, Mick. It's a pleasure to be here.
Well, Fred, how are things changed with the Republicans in control of the House?
Well, I can tell you it's a lot more fun to be in the majority than it was in the minority. We tended to play defense all the time when we were in the minority. We were trying to stop bad legislation, really couldn't promote our agenda. Now that we're in the majority, we have some say, even though the Senate is still in control of the Democrat Party, the Republicans are pushing initiative, very bold initiatives, some reforms that we think have been needed for a long time.
How does that work when one party is in control for an awfully long period of time and then another party takes over? Is there a tendency to not hear what is the new minority party's view and to try to catch up for all the years that your view was in the minority?
Well, I think there were a lot of pent-up ideas that had been bottled up in committees or killed by the majority. But I would say that I don't think there's been a lot of that. If there are good ideas, it's not a partisan deal. If there are good ideas, let's hear them, let's sort through them. But there are philosophical differences between the parties. And so we've seen a lot of good ideas that are moving forward in the legislative process. Obviously, they have to be passed by the Senate, too, so you still have to have that compromise that comes about as part of the legislative process. And that's a good thing. That's the founders of our system understood that.
Well, Fred, one thing I've been struck by in a positive way, just as an observer that knows nothing more about it than just what I read in the newspaper or see on television, and that is there seems to be, while there are significant differences of opinion, there seems to be kind of an amazing degree of civility in this House. I mean, in the House and the Senate and how they deal with each other and with the governor, that one might not have expected to be present. Is that perception correct?
I think it's correct. I mean, I think a little bit like and I are in the legal business, and we know that we can disagree vehemently but still walk away and be friends. And I like that part about it, and I've actually been very active in trying to promote civility within the legislature, because we can argue passionately about issues, but at the end of the day, we still should be friends. We're all Oklahomans, and we ought to be working together. One of the things that's really happened at the legislature, the Speaker wanted to change a lot of the rules. And so we have a new set of rules in the Oklahoma House of Representatives that are to promote openness in government. One of the things that used to happen a lot is at the end of session or at a deadline, there would be a bill that would contain things that nobody had ever seen before. The new rules don't allow that. Amendments have to be filed in advance so that you can see what they are. So that everyone has an opportunity to study them before they have to vote. I think the new rules, it's obviously going after being in the minority for 80 years, there's a steep learning curve, but we are, I think, making a lot of progress, and I think overall the rules have worked very well.
Well, Republican House, Democratic Senate, either compromises are made or nothing happens. Right. So which is it? I mean, how do you see that unfolding here?
Well, I think there will be compromises, and as we go into some of the issues, I think you can see the basis for compromise. Certain things have to happen in the legislative process. A budget has to be written. One side may have their priorities, the other side may have another set of priorities, but at the end of the day, we have to make government work for the people of Oklahoma, and that forces compromise. Obviously, if you want to get something done, you have to compromise. That system is designed to force people with divergent views to find ways, and I think we will.
Let me change the subject and let's talk about the bill that you introduced to, in some ways, limit the power of the Attorney General to initiate legal action on behalf of the state or its citizens to try to correct some sort of wrong. Can you give us, I know this past week there were some developments in that regard. Can you tell us where that bill is? Best you know now.
Let me describe the bill first, because I think there has been a lot of misconceptions about what the bill did and wouldn't do. The bill is basically to preserve our separation of powers. The legislature is in charge of setting public policy. We should set public policy after debate, hearings, thorough discussion, and then by 101 members of the House and 48 members of the Senate. What has happened in this country is there's been a movement by attorney generals to try to fix every right and wrong through litigation, and I think that's government abuse, government lawsuit abuse. You see it with, and it's usually based on common law theories that we as the Attorney General are the protectors of the people. Well, in fact, it undermines our whole system of government when you allow one person, an Attorney General, to set public policy. because that's supposed to be set by the legislature with the executive branch of our government enforcing it. All this bill really says is that if there's not a statute in place, federal or state statute, that before the Attorney General would be allowed to proceed with a lawsuit, he would have to go to get permission from either the governor or the legislature, either one. We think that if it passed the House in a bipartisan fashion, went to the Senate, there it has had some problems in the Senate. But I would say that there were Republicans and Democrats that think some of these protections are needed. We have a lot of agencies that we set up as the legislature to monitor the health and welfare of our citizens. Department of Environmental Quality, Department of Labor, Department of Water Resources Board. All of these agencies are set up to monitor and put rules in place to monitor water quality and those kinds of things to protect the health of our citizens. If, in fact, someone can go file a lawsuit, an attorney general can file a lawsuit, it undermines those agencies and their role and their responsibility. That's what the bill was intended to do.
Would it, I know the AG has some criminal powers, the powers to initiate criminal action through multi-county grand juries and the like. Would it affect the criminal powers to enforce the law?
It would have no impact. As I said, it would,
simply civil then.
Civil, and only civil where there is no existing statute. We have many statutes, consumer fraud, workers' comp fraud. The Attorney General is charged with responsibility to do that. The other thing is we have a fiscal responsibility to fund all agencies. If the Attorney General has unlimited power to file lawsuits and hire legal counsel, it undermines the ability of the legislature to control his budget as well.
Yeah.
And you can change this legislatively?
Yes, as a matter of fact.
The powers of the AG?
Yes, that's a good question because a lot of people think that the duties and responsibilities of the Attorney General are set in the Oklahoma Constitution. They're not. They're set by the legislature, and we have expanded and his powers over time to allow him to get into more things like workers' comp, like consumer fraud. So this is consistent with the duties of the responsibilities and of the legislature, and it's not a radical idea. There are other states that currently have laws that require that the Attorney General get permission before he hires outside counsel, for instance. This is just another extension of that idea.
The permission under your bill could come from one of three sources: the governor, the House, or the Senate. Is that?
Yes.
Is that right?
Yes, that's the way the bill is written. And again, if there's already an existing statute authorized by the legislature, he doesn't need any approval.
Mm-hmm. Let me jump in and get us to a break. We're visiting with Fred Morgan, State Representative, District 83. We'll be right back. You're watching The Verdict.
All children deserve a life of hope and love, but sometimes they experience a life of pain, neglect, and abuse.
When that happens, each child deserves all the quality assistance and representation that can be offered in our legal system. For more information, call 23-CHILD.
Oklahoma Lawyers for Children, helping to bring hope and love back to the lives of abused children.
Hi, I'm Leo with Graves Satellite, and you better get a bigger TV because you're going to need one for this great new satellite deal. Look at what we've got in here. A free satellite hooked up in 4 different rooms, free installation, a free digital video recorder, a free high-definition receiver, plus over 250 channels starting at just $31 per month, including the local channels. $1 movie channels are also available, plus high-speed internet. Hurry, call today. This sale ends Saturday.
On the next Recipe TV, featuring the world's greatest chefs. Meet Chris Brandt, chef de cuisine of the Ocean Room restaurant at the South Carolina resort The Sanctuary, and learn his most popular recipes.
Okay, this is the grilled beef tenderloin over a mushroom mousseline. So that's the sake poached salmon over the bamboo rice. So this is our seared North Atlantic halibut.
Weekday mornings at 8 a.m. right here on KSBI.
I'm Ronnie Deutsch. I have settled IRS tax bills for only $20.
$20.
Ronnie was able to help us settle this debt for only $20.
Saved me $34,000.
Saved me $10,000.
When she says that she can settle this for pennies on the dollar, she absolutely means it.
You deserve a fresh start. Let me help you settle your IRS tax bill.
Call the law offices of Ronnie Deutsch for a free and confidential tax analysis. Call 1-800-340-3400.
Welcome back to the set of the verdict. Mick Cornett, Kent Myers, and we're visiting with Representative Fred Morgan.
When we took a break, we were talking about the bill to limit, in some respects, the Attorney General's powers to sue. What's the status of that now?
Well, it passed the House in a bipartisan fashion, about 59 votes. Went to the Senate, was heard in Senate Judiciary Committee just yesterday, as a matter of fact, this week. And it was an amendment was put on the bill. That amendment failed, and so it's been pulled by the author. It's still alive, but it's got some problems, and we're going to continue to work on it. That bill will also survive until the next year's legislature.
So if it doesn't pass this session, we'll see it again next year?
I think so, yes.
Yeah, okay.
What's going on in lawsuit reform?
Well, the two top priorities for the Republicans on their agenda this year were going to be and are lawsuit reform and workers' compensation reform. Both of them are two things that businesses who look at this state and businesses who are trying to stay afloat in this state need reform and have expressed to us their need for reform. Lawsuit reform last year, there was a week, the governor called it, he wanted a lawsuit reform bill that was Texas Plus. But at the end of the day, after all of it was watered down and the compromises were made, everyone's referring to it as Oklahoma Light. So there was also supposed to be a 6-year moratorium, but I think everybody recognized that that bill just didn't go far enough last year, that we needed more reform. So this year the Speaker made it one of his top priorities. The governor has admitted that we needed some more reform this year. Senator Cal Hobson, as President of the Senate, said he agrees that we need, and virtually all the interest groups have said more reform is needed. So we pulled together a lot of interest groups, defense attorneys, businesses, chambers of commerce, and said, what can we do to fix our system? And so we came out with one of I think, the most comprehensive lawsuit reform bill that this state and maybe in the country has seen. That bill has passed out of the House with the title on. It includes medical malpractice reform, teacher protection reform. It includes pharmaceutical reform, asbestos reform, and manufacturing and class action reform. Very comprehensive, and for the first time, it went over with a title on, which meant it's a live round. It's over in the Senate. This week, the Senate Judiciary Committee heard it, made some amendments to it, basically gutted it, but it's still alive. And so we're going to have to go to a conference committee on it probably and start negotiating what's going to be the final version of the bill.
What do you think is most likely to come out of that negotiation? Give me the top 2 or 3 things that you think is most likely to become law that is not law today.
Well, I think one of the things that we looked at last year was a cap on non-economic damages. There was a cap of $300,000 put into the bill last year into law. Unfortunately, it's a very weak cap, and so I think one of the main things we'll be looking at is trying to get a hard cap on non-economic damages of $300,000. A lot of other states have already done that. Georgia recently did it. Mississippi's done it. A lot of states have looked at that because at some point you've got to end the whole jackpot justice system of going to a jury and not having any kind of reliable cap as to what's going to happen in that jury trial. So that's number one. I think we're going to look at ending joint and several liability, where if you're 10% responsible for the hurt, that you get 100% of the responsibility. I think we're going to look at this teacher protection. I think that's very important. And class action reform is a high priority for us. We got mentioned by the Americans for Tax Reform with a dishonorable mention as possibly becoming the home of a lot of class action suits. We're shopping for juries and judges in this state, and we can't have that reputation nationally if we expect to recruit businesses to this state and expect our own businesses to stay here.
Let me ask you about workers' comp reform.
Sure.
That's certainly an issue high on the speaker's list and many people's minds. What's going on there?
Well, we had, again, we took a lot of input from a lot of different people. The governor has his bill, we have our bill. in the House, the Speaker's bill, which I carried. Took 6 hours to present that bill on the House floor. It's over 100 pages long. It included, we had 60 or 70 amendments to the bill that were filed. But at the end of the day, it did pass. It includes, it's been estimated to save businesses somewhere between $100 to $150 million in workers' compensation costs. And a lot of companies look at that when they seek to expand and invest capital here in this state. Existing businesses tell us they're struggling with their workers' compensation costs. This would give the employer the choice of presenting an employee 3 doctors in any particular area and giving them some control, and then the employee would get to pick from the doctor. Employer choice of physicians is one of the biggest driving costs to reduce our cost.
What's your prediction? Is it going to end up in a conference committee at some point?
This week, the Senate Judiciary Committee heard it, made a significant number of amendments to it. We're still studying those amendments to see what impact. We've said that we'll look at anything that will save businesses $100 million in workers' compensation cost. Our bill increases benefits to workers, by the way. We know that workers, everyone complains about our existing system as being broken. It's too slow to get treatment, the benefits are too low, and it's too much attorney involvement, and we end up with dueling doctors and those kinds of things of fighting over in the legal court system over who is going to get compensated and how much they're going to get compensated, instead of trying to get the injured worker treated, fair compensation, and get them back to work. That's what we really want from our system.
Give me some other issues that you all are dealing with.
Well, as you probably know, one of the important things is our bridges and roads in the state are crumbling. And so one of the things we're looking at is how do we get more money into our transportation system to fix our bridges, to fix our roads, and make a good transportation system, a good infrastructure. That's a tough deal right now with gasoline prices so high. Nobody wants to raise even more taxes. Could we divert more money in the general fund? We do have a good budget this year. Maybe we can find ways to put more money in transportation, make it a priority. The budget is always an issue. We always fight over the budget. We're fortunate this year. It looks like the budget, we're not going to have to make a lot of cuts. We're going to be able to actually provide some more funding and restore some of the cuts that were made over the last few years. Tax reform, very high on our list. We're getting our brains beat out by other states who have a better tax system. And so if we're going to be competitive with other states, we're going to need to reform our tax system, and we're looking at that.
Well, you know, I don't remember us approaching tax reform seriously in the past several years. Do you feel like there's a little bit of momentum for that?
I do. I think there's a lot of momentum. Number one, because the economy is a little more healthy now, so we can talk about tax cuts and talk about tax incentives. Also, it makes a difference. The Republicans have been very interested in doing some kind of tax reform, maybe reducing our personal income tax, looking at the holiday sales tax, those kinds of things, making some reforms, the state taxes, trying to reduce those taxes, because ultimately we believe that it'll encourage our economy and it'll actually provide a larger tax base over time.
I've seen a report or two about perhaps also including the abolishment of taxes on Social Security benefits, state taxes on Social Security benefits for the elderly.
Right. We've looked at a number of tax relief methods for our citizens, particularly our senior citizens. One of the things we hear a lot from senior citizens is their property values just continue to climb, and they're on fixed incomes. And the taxes on that property just continues to climb for them, and they're very concerned about it. And there are a couple of measures moving their way through the legislative process to try to address that issue.
What's your? We know that the Republicans took over the House, and the Democrats are still in control of the Senate, but there are a number of seats up in 2 years that could very well swing the control of the Senate over to the Republican side. Look into our crystal ball here, Fred, and tell us what you think's most likely to happen.
Well, there's been a trend really going on over the last 10 years. Oklahoma has been moving. It is a very conservative state, and it's been moving closer and closer to the Republican Party. Traditionally, it's been a Democrat registration state. There's more and more Democrats have changed their registration. And so if you start to look at areas in the state, you're seeing voter trends that are moving towards the Republican Party. The Senate is, last time I think 2 seats were picked up in the Oklahoma Senate by the Republicans. The numbers have tightened. It's the tightest in state history. 26-22, 4 seats. So if you win 2 seats, you're in a tie if you're in the Republican minority right now. I think that will at least happen. I think the Republicans will pick up 2 or 3 seats in the Senate, and the Republicans will take control of the Senate next time.
Should be interesting.
If they pick up 2 and it's a tie, then the lieutenant governor breaks the tie.
That is correct.
Lieutenant Governor Fallon, if she's still.
That's right.
Is lieutenant governor.
And she's going to make a decision whether she's looking at the governor's race or going to stay there in the lieutenant governor's. And so we obviously want to make sure we have a good lieutenant governor candidate if she decides to run for the governor's race. But should be very, very interesting.
Should be.
Sounds like we need to get her on the verdict.
Again.
Fred Morgan, our guest in today's edition of The Verdict. Fred, thanks very much for coming on.
Thank you for having me. I enjoyed it.
We appreciate it.
Kent and I'll be back with the final word after this.
How much are you paying for internet service? $21? $23? Aren't you being charged too much? We think so. With People PC Online, you get unlimited internet access for only $10.95 a month. Go to peoplepc.com now to try us free for 30 days and compare us with your current ISP. With People PC Online, you get internet service for less than half of what the big guys cost. And that's just the beginning. You also get more local access numbers than AOL, plus a smart dialer that automatically chooses the fastest, most reliable number. So you always get the best connection. All for just $10.95 a month. Try People PC Online free for 30 days and see for yourself. Go to peoplepc.com for a quick 3-minute download of our easy-to-use software. Or call 1-800-620-7123. People PC Online, a better way to internet.
Think you know Arkansas? Think again. Get to know Arkansas Adventure, inside and out. We'll even show you how. Call for your free Arkansas vacation planning kit today.
Heritage Hall, an independent college preparatory school. Here we celebrate our scientists, our athletes, our mathematicians, and our future artists.
Our students love to learn. A welcoming school for children aged 3 through grade 12. We are a community. We are a family. We are Heritage Hall.
Welcome back. Mick Cornett, Kent Myers here to wrap up another edition of The Verdict.
We are really pleased this morning to have Representative Fred Morgan join us. Fred is a leader out in the legislature, is a bright, articulate fellow that promotes civility not simply by talking about it, but by acting it out, displaying it, being civil. And in this very close legislative environment where you're together all the time, every day, it can get testy and hot, and Fred is a peacemaker out there, but also a progress maker. We're pleased he would join us and talk about what's going on. And next Sunday, we're going to bring you a very timely show, a show about what's going on at the Oklahoma City National Memorial. As we know, the 10th anniversary is just about upon us. We've had a prior show about those festivities, but this show is going to be about actually what physically is going on out there, what kind of classes there are, what kind of museum tours and the like, and we're going to have Frank Hill. And Carrie Watkins.
Carrie Watkins.
Thank you.
That's right.
I just had a loss of memory there for a second. This is a show that is pretty loose, as you can tell. Carrie Watkins and Frank Hill will join us talking about the National Memorial. I think it'll be a good show if I can remember their names when I introduce them.
It really will be a good show, and there's a lot going on at the memorial. People don't realize just how many people visit Oklahoma City and want to take a look at the memorial. We'll be back then. In the meantime, check out our website, theverdict.tv. Tell us about a future guest you'd like to see on The Verdict, and we'll see you next week.